They thought I was the same woman they had already broken. They were wrong. Very wrong. They thought I was my sister. That was their first mistake. When I walked back into the Moore mansion wearing plain clothes and lowered eyes, they saw only what they wanted to see. A broken wife, crawling home. A woman soon to be officially divorced. They had no idea. I was the one who had come to end them. My name is not the one they know. I am not weak. I am not poor. And I do not beg. I speak 7 languages fluently, hold controlling shares in 3 big companies, and have never lost a fight in my life. But none of that mattered. Because the woman they destroyed was my twin sister. I found her on the side of a village road. Barely breathing. Skin bruised. Hands scarred. The doctor said she had been abused for years. Her husband did it. His mother allowed it. His mistress enjoyed it. Even the servants joined in. When I asked who had hurt her, she didn't wake up to answer. She slipped into a coma instead. So I answered for her. The Moore family thought they had thrown away a useless daughter-in-law. They didn't know that when they locked her out of those iron gates, they had invited someone far worse back in. I didn't rush in. I watched. I learned their routines. Their characters. Their weaknesses. I learned that they spoke carelessly around my sister because they believed she was uneducated. I learned that the mistress thought herself untouchable. I learned that the mother-in-law believed money made her a god. And I learned that my sister had been surviving hell with nothing but silence. The day I stepped into the mansion, the guard hesitated. "You're back?" he asked. I lowered my head and said softly, "Yes." Inside, the servants laughed. The mistress smirked. The husband didn't even look up from his phone. No one noticed the little accent change. No one noticed that the woman standing before them understood every single word they said. That night, as they mocked me in front of my face, they began planning how to destroy me again. They spoke freely. Carelessly. Confidently. They had no idea they were confessing their sins to the woman who would ruin them all. I smiled. Not because I was afraid, but because I finally understood something my sister never had the chance to realize. Mercy is for the innocent. And I was not here to be kind. It got me wondering how my sister was sweet-talked into this hell of a marriage. The house had the smell of arrogance and rot. The way they looked at me with disgust made me wonder the amount of humiliation my sister must have endured this past years. "Back already?" The voice came from the stairs. Ethan Moore's mistress, Lena, leaned against the railing, silk robe loose, lips curved in lazy triumph. She looked me up and down slowly. "So," she said sweetly, "the village didn't kill you after all." I lowered my head. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. She laughed. A sharp, satisfied sound. Immediately she saw Ethan. She started speaking softly like she was in an opera drama. I had to hold in the laughter from her stupid act. Ethan finally glanced at me. His eyes flicked over my plain clothes, my calm posture. No tears. No pleading. He frowned. "You came back without permission," he said coldly. "My mother hasn't decided what to do with you yet." I nodded obediently. "I'll wait." That was all. They didn't notice. Not the steadiness of my breathing. Not the way I stood balanced on the balls of my feet. Not the way my gaze never truly lowered. At dinner, they made sure I stood. No chair. No plate. That alone told me everything. Even the servants were treated better than the daughter-in-law of the mansion who they called a person of lowly birth and status. The head maid whispered in dialect to another servant, thinking I wouldn't understand. "She's useless. Even the mistress has higher status now." I smiled faintly. That dialect was my 5th language. Lena leaned into Ethan's shoulder as they ate. She's lucky we let her stay, she said softly, in English. Then, switching to a very imperfect funny-sounding French, she added with a smirk. Tonight, I want her cleaning the wine cellar. It is very dirty and needs cleaning. Ethan didn't reply. Silence was consent. I responded in the same language. Soft. Perfectly pronounced. Of course. The table went still. Lena froze mid-bite. Her eyes widened for just a second before she laughed awkwardly. Oh. You know French? I looked confused. Did I say something wrong? Her smile stiffened. The whole table looked like they saw a ghost. Later that night, the maids pushed me toward the cellar. One of them muttered cruelly in English. She doesn't even know what she's married to. Poor idiot. I answered without looking back. Be careful on the stairs. You'll slip if you rush. She nearly fell. They began watching me after that. Not closely. But uneasily. Ethan's mother, Mrs. Moore, finally summoned me. She sat upright in her armchair like a queen on a rotten throne. You've embarrassed this family enough, she said sharply. Wait till the election is over, then this stupid mistake of a marriage will end officially. And stop pretending you're clever. Poverty doesn't disappear just because you learned a few foreign words. I met her gaze. I agree. That night, I accessed the house security system. Outdated. Laughably so. Within minutes, I had copied footage from the past 3 months. What I saw was beautiful. Lena entering Ethan's bedroom long before the divorce even started. Mind you that they are not officially divorced yet. Servants accepting bribes. Mrs. Moore instructing staff to withhold food. I backed everything up. The next morning, I made breakfast. Lena watched me closely as I poured tea. You seem different, she said lightly. I smiled. Almost dying changes people. She laughed. Don't be dramatic. She didn't know she had already stepped onto my board. That afternoon, Ethan received a call. His expression changed. What do you mean the contract is delayed? He snapped. I passed by quietly. But I already knew why. Because the company delaying it belonged to me. That evening, Lena locked me in the wine cellar. She told the servants I was being punished. The lights went out. I counted slowly. 1, 2, 3. Then I unlocked the door from the inside and went to sleep comfortably in the guest room. The next morning, the servants panicked. She escaped. Mrs. Moore was furious. Lena paled. Ethan stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. I bowed politely. You told me to clean the cellar, I said calmly. I did. Then I added softly. And I don't like locked doors. That was the moment they realized something was wrong. But by then, I had already begun dismantling their world. Power never disappears suddenly. It leaks. And the Moore family was leaking everywhere. The first to crack was Lena. She tried to reassert control the only way she knew how, in public. At Mrs. Moore's weekly charity luncheon, Lena arrived wearing jewelry that didn't belong to her. The one they accused my sister of stealing. Of course, my sister was the pauper who dare not appear with him in public as his wife. The one always kept at home and unknown to people. Beautiful necklace, one of the guests said. Lena smiled smugly. A gift from Ethan. I smiled too. And quietly turned on my phone. When the guests began discussing charity funding, Mrs. Moore preened like royalty. Our family has always valued integrity, she said proudly. I spoke for the first time at the table. Integrity, I repeated softly. Everyone looked at me. Mrs. Moore frowned but continued her fake love speech. After that, I stood. Walked over to Lena. And fixed the clasp of her necklace. Carefully. Intimately. I'm glad you like stolen things, I whispered. They suit liars. Her face drained of color. The room buzzed. Ethan stiffened. He has not seen this audacious side of me before. Mrs. Mort slammed her hand on the table. Enough. I bowed. Of course. The next blow landed at work. Ethan's company lost 2 more contracts in 1 week. Investors stopped returning calls. A bank meeting was postponed indefinitely. Ethan came home furious. Expecting the comfort he gets from my sister as usual. I went straight to the dining table, eating my food and watching videos on Manhwa stories by Rose on YouTube. He began to realize that the wife he thought he knew has changed. That night, I received a message. Unknown, you're enjoying this too much. I smiled. Because the number belonged to Lena. I replied. You should rest. Stress ages the face. She didn't respond. The servants had begun to change their attitude towards me. I once beat up 3 maids who poured dirty water on me, pretending it was an accident. I led them to a room as they sheepishly followed me, and I unleashed my martial arts skills on them. After the beating, they were shocked. I ordered them not to speak to anyone about it if they do not want to be laughed at. Of course they agreed because of their fake dignity. When Mrs. Moore asked them about the bruises on their faces, they gave the lame excuse of falling down the stairs. It was so funny looking at their faces. The charity luncheon footage leaked 2 days later. Not to the police. To the social circle. Whispers followed Lena everywhere. Mistress. Thief. Gold digger. So she is not even the actual wife, others said. She stopped smiling. Mrs. Mort summoned me this time. This time, she didn't sit. You're poisoning this house, she hissed. You think you have grown wings? I met her gaze. And gave an audacious eye roll. She got very angry with my attitude and raised her hand to hit me like she does, and I caught her hand and held it so tight that she let out a scream in pain. She ran into her room like she has seen a ghost. I guess my sister she knows will never do that. She called my husband saying that I have been possessed by an evil spirit. So the news went round the mansion. That was the night Ethan followed me. He watched as I stepped into a private car. Watched the driver open the door for me. Watched the vehicle disappear into the city. He didn't sleep. He texted me asking who I was with. He angrily asked if I was not ashamed of sleeping with a man that is not my husband. I laughed at the joke of a text message. The irony and hypocrisy of a man living with his mistress in his marital home. A man that has no idea who his wife is. I did not respond to any message, and even blocked him to avoid his constant calls that night. The next day, I met a man. The man who was helping me. Tall. Calm. Eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Are you sure? He asked. I nodded. They broke the wrong woman. He smiled faintly. Then let's make it official. When Ethan came home that evening, his mother was waiting for him. Her voice shook. The board has called an emergency meeting. Lena locked herself in the bathroom. And I sat quietly in the living room, sipping tea. Because the final phase was beginning. And this time, they wouldn't be able to pretend they were in control. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for noon. Ethan left early, face pale, jaw tight. Lena stayed behind. She couldn't stop pacing. You did something, she snapped at me. I know you did. I looked up slowly. If I had, I said calmly. You wouldn't still be standing. She raised her hand. I caught her wrist. Her eyes widened. I leaned in. Don't ever touch me again. I released her. She stumbled back, shaking. Mrs. Moore witnessed everything. For the first time. She said nothing. At the boardroom, Ethan walked into silence. Screens were already on. Documents laid out. Evidence. Not accusations. Facts. When I entered the room minutes later, every head turned. The CEO beside me rose first. "Good afternoon," he said calmly. "My name is Adrian Vale." The room stiffened. They knew that name. Everyone did. Adrian spoke without raising his voice. "The contracts you lost were not cancelled," he said. "They were frozen." Ethan swallowed. "By whom?" Adrian smiled. "By me." The documents changed. Shareholder records. Shell accounts. Bribes. Mrs. Moore's name appeared. So did Lena's. The room erupted. Back at the mansion, Lena snapped. She threw a vase. "You promised me security," she screamed at Ethan's mother. Mrs. Moore slapped her. "That was their business to deal with. I did not care at all." At that moment, Ethan returned. Defeated. Sweaty. Silent. His gaze landed on Adrian standing beside me. Then on my calm expression. Then on Lena's panic. "Who are you?" he whispered. I met his eyes. "The woman you should have feared." Lena lunged. She aimed for my face. I moved once. She hit the floor. Hard enough to make her stay in bed for a week. The servants froze. No one helped her. Adrian's voice was steady. "This household is no longer yours to control," he said to Mrs. Moore. "The accounts are frozen. The staff contracts have been transferred." Mrs. Moore collapsed into a chair. Ethan took a step toward me. "Was any of it real?" he asked hoarsely. "It funny the fool is yet to catch on, or maybe he is confused." I tilted my head. "Did it matter when you were hurting me?" He had no answer. Police lights flashed outside. For fraud. For tax evasion. For years of quiet crimes. As Lena was escorted out, screaming, she locked eyes with me. "You think you've won?" I smiled. "No," I said softly. "I think I'm finished here." Upstairs, in a quiet hospital room across the city. My sister's fingers twitched. The house was quiet after they were gone. Too quiet. No shouting. No footsteps. No fear clinging to the walls. I stood alone in the living room and finally exhaled. At the hospital, the machines hummed softly. I took my sister's hand. "Wake up," I said gently. "I'm done." Her lashes fluttered. Then her eyes opened. She cried when she saw me. I thought. I was still there, she whispered. I shook my head. "No," I said softly. "You're safe now." The trial was swift. Evidence speaks louder than tears. Mrs. Moore lost everything: status, wealth, and allies. Lena vanished from society like a bad memory. Ethan stood alone in the courtroom. When the judge asked if he wished to speak, he looked at my sister. "I didn't know," he said. She smiled sadly. "That was your choice." After the verdict, he stopped us in the hallway for some stupid apology. She forgave him for her sake, but vowed never to have anything to do with him in this life. Months later, my sister stood in sunlight for the first time without fear. She learned slowly. To speak. To choose. To breathe. She didn't need revenge. She already had justice. As for me, I returned to my life. My companies. My freedom. I started dating Adrian. "Would you do it again?" he asked. I looked back once. At a house that no longer held power. For her. I said. Yes. Some families break you. Others wake the wrong twin. And this time, no one dared my sister ever again. Besties, thank you for staying until the end. Your support helps us create more amazing stories. Please like and subscribe for more.